Make sure you break that $2,100 lens.
I was recently talking to my buddy, Nigel, who's a filmmaker and a YouTuber, about him wanting to have a better way to display his lenses. So I went over to his house, and after almost breaking his most expensive lens, I took some measurements and helped him come up with a simple design for something that we could build. Since we didn't want to spend too much money on this project, I had plenty of scrap plywood left over that we could use. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm using plywood, and especially a scrap piece, is cut a nice straight edge to reference from. Now this piece is only going to be about 5 inches deep, so here I'm just ripping it down to those 5-inch strips. And the overall length is only going to be about 31 inches, so that's what I'm measuring here. Now, something I always try to do when I'm using my miter saw to cut through plywood is to take a shallow pass through the top veneer. That helps prevent the chipping and blowout that you might see. And believe me, none of us want to see a blowout. I'm really glad I invested in this angle finder. That way I can more accurately match the angles on my miter saw and my table saw. And here I'm just setting up to cut out all of the end pieces. I need to cut some dados in some of these boards, so I'm switching this blade out for my dado stack. The reason I'm doing this is some of this plywood developed a bit of a bow, so in order to keep it as flat as possible, I'm going to put some dividers in. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a few minutes. Another tool I'm glad I invested in is this aluminum straight edge. This way I can put all my pieces up against it and keep everything nice and straight and in line. I made dados on the top of this bottom piece that will accept the second tier, and I did the same thing on the second tier. So you'll see that here as I'm assembling. And here I mocked up the second tier with some corner clamps just to keep everything square, and I'm just going to test fit it to make sure that my measurements were correct. And by some miracle, they were correct. For the finish, I decided to use this stuff that makes it look like the wood was charred. At first, I was not happy with the result, but once I put the polyurethane on, it actually turned out really nice. And for this project, I decided to use a water-based polyurethane for a couple of reasons. One, it dries faster, and two, it feels a little more forgiving. And it actually ended up matching one of the tables that Nigel has in his office. I ended up doing about 3 coats with a light sanding in between each coat. I'm actually really pleased how this turned out, and I really hope that it finds a home in Nigel's office for a long time to come. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.